Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. We're committed to creating a thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work. Our ultimate goal is to elevate the reputation of the accounting profession and vastly improve the lives of those in it. The Unique CPA is brought to you by Tri-Merit, the specialty tax professionals.
Today, my guest is Bob Doyle. I had the pleasure of meeting Bob a few months ago at one of their association events in Michigan. Bob is the CEO of the Michigan Association of Certified Public Accountants and has been since 2020, and a really cool guy, which we'll talk about a little bit as we go here. But Bob, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Thank you, Randy. Pleasure to talk with you. And we've already been having a great conversation, so I'm looking forward to this conversation on your podcast today.
Yeah, we should have hit record 14 minutes ago and started splicing some of that into it. So one thing, real quick, I mentioned your role and who you are in Michigan, and that I had the pleasure of speaking at what was the event called?
Our Elevate conference back in June.
June, the Elevate conference. I thought it was June, so look at my memory. That's amazing. It was a fun event. It was nice to meet a lot of people that I've not met before. And it's the first time you and I met, which was a pleasure for me. So that was a good time. You run a nice show there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we kind of rebranded that show as Elevate. It's kind of like elevate your learning, elevate the profession. So we bring in a lot of speakers, a lot of different tracks. Actually, next year, we're already planning for next June, and AICPA CEO Mark Koziol is going to be there as our keynote. So we're already looking ahead to June 2026 for that. So it'll be great to have him in town.
Well, I'll cross out my hopes of being your keynote next year. So,
Yep.
Mark's a good guy. I've known Mark for quite a while. Actually, he's going to be on the podcast again coming up soon. He's been once before, but he's actually also offered to speak at our conference next year. So it's pretty cool to see that he's out and about, trying to be out there as much as he can.
Oh, yeah, he gets around for sure.
Yeah, I was just actually in Napa with him a couple of weeks ago at a conference as well, which is not a bad place to be.
No.
All right, so before we get going, I did a quick intro. You've been the CEO since 2020. Maybe give us a little background on how you got to that spot.
Sure. Yeah, I started in late February of 2020. I was blessed and honored to be selected as the next CEO of the MICPA. I followed the footsteps of a longtime leader. She had been CEO for 23 years. And so it was a really exciting opportunity for me. And then the end of my third week was when the world shut down because of COVID.
Yep.
So certainly things changed. Things changed quickly. And it's been a wonderful ride. Now here we are 5 years later. And I joke, like I still pretend like I know what I'm doing. And but it's been a lot of fun. And working in the accounting profession has really been a joy. But my background, actually, I'm not a CPA. I did not come from the profession. My bachelor's degree is in engineering. I worked in the automotive field for some time and decided I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I went back to school and got my master's in public relations and marketing. And so my career kind of went more in that path. And then I found myself working in the association space. I worked for an association in the robotics and automation field that was based here in Southeast Michigan in Ann Arbor. So that's kind of how I learned how associations work and how they're run and, and board governance and advocacy and membership and all that. And so I learned a lot there and always had the goal of leading an organization one day. And so when this position opened, I jumped for it. And like I said, here we are 5 years later. It's been an honor.
Been a pretty interesting 5 years too in the profession. Things changing, starting with COVID to PE now to pipeline issues to licensure to all these things. So you've had to, I'm sure, deal with a lot in the last 5 years.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot going on. I have a wonderful team to work with, the MICPA team here at the office, and hybrid, remote. We work go all over the state. Meeting with our members, learning from our members, but then also the strong network of my state society colleagues. It's just an awesome network that I've learned so much from my friends that work at all the different state associations, from the largest in California to Krista up in Alaska and everyone in between. So it's been anytime we get a chance to get together, whether it's virtual meetings that we get a lot on, but also get together at conferences and things. It's always a pleasure to work together and learn from each other too.
Yeah, so I've I'm in Illinois. I've known the Illinois Society for quite a while, but the last few years I've got to meet a lot of the leaders at the state societies, and it's really cool just to see what's going on and what they have to deal with. And before we went live here, you and I were talking about some of the societies. Jeff Brown from Illinois has been on the podcast before. I actually think you're the second person from a society or association. There you go. Jeff has got to know him pretty well over the last few years. He spoke at our conference a couple of years ago too, and really good guy. In fact, I had a phone call with him and a few of his people yesterday. So
nice.
A good group. So I want to go back into one thing I said then at the beginning, calling you a cool guy, and that is when I was at your conference, Elevate. I saw these T-shirts and I had to buy one, and it was CPA, coolest profession around. I want to know where that came from. Was this your idea? And then how do you play off that for your members?
So first of all, I need to make sure it's clear. It wasn't my idea or our idea. It first came from California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Cal CPA, that they kind of developed this coolest profession around. And, like a lot of our state societies, we joke that we borrow from each other a lot. And
I do that all the time.
With full support because, we are all working together, especially when it comes to promoting the profession and pipeline and everything. And so we just kind of embraced it and kind of came up with this logo. We have a great graphics person here at MICPA who developed that. And we put it on stickers. We put it all over. And I kind of try to, I guess, personal brand, if you will, and started, and actually kind of came on a whim. I was speaking to a group of high school students through our foundation, the Michigan Accountancy Foundation. We do these high school leaders programs a few times a year at college campuses where we bring in 100 high school students. We have speakers that talk about the profession, and then we have CPAs sit at every table at lunch and just kind of demystify what being a CPA is, what accounting is, and we had our new coolest profession around branding. Maybe this was probably 2 years ago now. I went out to my car and I grabbed my sunglasses. I was like, maybe this will work. I don't know. And so I put on my sunglasses. And since then, I now have a pair of white sunglasses that I put on, and I take selfies and learned that from like Anoop Mehta and Carla McCall and some other AICPA friends of taking selfies and posting them on LinkedIn. So I was like, I guess I could do this too. So anywhere I go now, and I was just up in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, a couple of weeks ago, visiting with students, visiting with members, and I take my selfie, my sunglasses, and post it. And I really, I kind of make fun of myself. I don't mind doing that, and it's fun. So, it's the coolest. Being a CPA is the coolest profession around.
And you know what? Just things like that are so important because the perception of the profession, it's not cool. It's not fun. That the perception, which is not reality by any means, is that it's, we're sitting at our desk. It's a boring profession. And I actually saw a survey out. I don't know how old it was, but it talked about like the most boring professions. And, from people's perception, they said accounting was number one. Mm-hmm. I go, this is crazy. They need to go hang out with Bob Doyle and see that this is completely wrong.
I mean, I wear Nike Air Force Ones also wherever I go. And and this again was on a whim, because I got out of my, business casual comfort zone. I actually started my kids. I have 2 boys who are now 13 and 11. It was a couple years ago. And like most kids, they have no idea what their dad does. But, they knew. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to speak to high school students. And they were sneakerheads. They said, you should wear sneakers, they're not your boring loafers. And I was like, eh. So I got a pair. I started wearing them. And it was great. It was a great way to kind of spark conversation. Yep. And I tell the story. I said, because, the founder of Nike, and actually a lot of kids don't really know the founder of Nike anymore, but that movie about Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, you know how he started his career?
Accountant, CPA, I assume.
He was a CPA.
Yep.
And that's really how we kind of bring in the coolest profession around because, and that's kind of our message, particularly to high school students, college students, depending on the age of college, whether they're freshmen or getting closer to their senior year. It's such a cool profession because you can go in so many different directions.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe traditionally, like graduate, start in public accounting. You could work in public accounting for the rest of your life. You could become a partner at a major firm and have a great life and frankly make a lot of money.
Yep.
You could go off and work in business and industry and become a CFO or a controller. You could go into nonprofit work. You could go into government. You could become an educator. You could start your own firm. You can be an entrepreneur, or not even necessarily own your own CPA firm is awesome. But what if you start another business, but you know accounting, you know the language of
Right.
business? That's what I tell students. You want to be an entrepreneur? Learn the language of business.
Oh, yeah.
Become an accountant first.
Yeah.
So that's why being a CPA is so cool.
Yeah, it's when you were just talking there, you were making me think about this. Neither of my kids, I have two boys. My wife and I have two boys, and neither of them became accountants. One's a software engineer, and doing great with that, and the other has been in investment banking for the last 6 years. Doing M&A transactions and that. And he is now, and it's okay if I say this on this because he's decided he's going to transition, and he wants to work doing like M&A consulting for a CPA firm, not for firms to buy other firms, but with all the opportunity in M&A for the next 10 years with boomers having to transition their business,
Sure.
Whether it's just advisory on how to get to the next generation or if it's a transaction or if it's, what having to do with the newfound cash and investing. So it looks like in the next few weeks, my son might actually be working with a CPA firm. So it's pretty exciting to see that that wasn't the idea at the beginning, but it brings a big smile to me that he's probably going to be working in public accounting here shortly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And it was because of you, Randy. It took him a minute, but he saw you and he made his way back into accounting. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, it's like he doesn't have to be a CPA to do this role. And he says, no, right. I'm going to be a CPA. I want to be a CPA. I want to do that.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, so it's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, congratulations to him.
Yeah, and so he's seen the fun side of the profession. So I think if what I did was so boring to everybody, I don't think he would have went into it. So he understands that. Let's transition from there then into the pipeline, because that's an issue that everybody's dealing with. Is there something specific you're doing with the association to have a positive impact on, you're talking about high school students and college. What are you doing to try to solve the pipeline issue?
Yeah, I think, there's been a lot of effort nationally. The National Pipeline Advisory Group started it. A lot of state societies. Frankly, a lot of us have been doing this for a long time as far as getting out into high schools, talking to college students, talking about the profession. And I think really the last couple of years, we're starting to see it turn around. You saw the enrollments in undergrad colleges and universities across the country were had increased last fall. We'll see. It sounds like we're hearing the same thing, at least anecdotally. I'm sure I'm going to be interested to see when the numbers come out.
Yep, me too.
For this school year. And, I think kind of demystifying it, getting in front of the students is so important. We've been encouraging our members, like we want to get out as much as we can as far as our staff, but we can't be everywhere. So all of our MICPA members, they all, graduate from a high school or they have a connection with their local high school. Like, hey, get in your high school. Hopefully, if they still have an accounting class, go in, do a career day, or even if it's a business class or whatever, and the thing is, we have tons of resources. Like we have PowerPoint presentations. We have it's like lemonade stand example, how you can kind of go through debits and credits and everything. And that's why we encourage, like, hey, reach out to us. We'd be happy to provide this to you. Or, when we do get requests, then, we've got a kind of a bank of individuals who we love to send out and talk to students. So that's a lot of it. We've been doing a few other things like the additional pathway to licensure. Yeah. I know, I think we're up to 25 states or so who are in some process of passing, the change to the law to allow the bachelor's plus 2 years pathway. Here in Michigan, we're very close. Actually, the bill's been introduced. We're close to finally getting it through the process. Hopefully, still this year, and we'll be able to start licensing CPAs with that bachelor's plus 2 years experience in 2026. We'll see where that goes. I think there's also with the change to the CPA exam with CPA Evolution, which is now, I guess it's been over a year and a half. I think what can we do? How can we better support candidates to get them across the finish line? I think we being the association, we being the profession, we being firms, I know a lot of them already have great programs where they support them with their exam prep materials and everything. But, there's a delta of the number of candidates who start but don't finish.
Hmm.
What can we do to better support more of those candidates, get them across the finish line? So I think all that working together. I know also, in the education field, the colleges and universities are looking at how can they create more engaging, particularly some of those more entry level courses, rather than weeder courses like they always used to be. Can we make them more like pull through courses? Let's pull these students through the courses so they can be on that pathway to becoming a CPA. So I think all these things working together is certainly helping, but it's a challenge that all of us want to continue to work on. But a lot of professions are experiencing.
Oh yeah.
Just my old association, the robotics industry. There's not enough people going and becoming robotics technicians and things.
Wow.
So it's like we're competing for talent for sure, and that's going to continue in the coming years.
Yeah. How about from like a conference, Elevate or other conferences you have you considered or maybe doing already, like having a space where college students can participate within the association's conferences?
Yeah, we have a college student membership for MICPA. It's free.
Okay, nice.
Typically, it's more focused on exam prep and changes and what's going on in the profession. But also, yeah, we offer. They can attend our conferences. They can learn. They can network, collaborate. We have our Celebrate Awards dinner coming up, and that's more. We typically have a couple tables full of college students, as well as new CPAs that recently were licensed over last year. We invite them to attend. So, just any way we can try to bring them into the mix and allow them to see the profession, allow them to network with others in the profession. It certainly helps, especially those that are newer in their careers.
Yeah, that brought up a question in my mind. Before we went live, I mentioned I was out at Cal CPA a few weeks ago, meeting with them. And one of the topics that came up was membership. Overall, it sounds like every association or society is having a drop in membership. And so how do we have an impact on that? And then one of the things that specifically came up was, hey, yes, students get a free membership. How do we get them to continue that when they get out working? Because what seems to happen is that once that free's gone, it's harder to keep them involved, especially if their company is not paying for it. And a lot of our other firm. Have you been trying to figure out that role of the association creating that buzz about membership?
Yeah, it's really about the engagement piece and what can we provide, particularly those newer CPAs or younger CPAs that, especially if they work for a big firm. I mean, let's be honest, they don't necessarily need their state association. They're getting plenty of support from the big firm. They're getting their education, they're getting resources. And they have a lot of ways to engage. All big firms have their different kind of employee groups and things. So yeah, I'll admit it's hard. We have an emerging leaders group that we have a pretty active group now. It died off during COVID, frankly, and we're trying to reinvigorate that. We're finding it used to be like, oh yeah, let's have a happy hour, and a lot of people would come. Well, guess what? People don't come to happy hours anymore. So
I'll be there.
We're looking at.
I'm going.
Well, I mean, I'll be there with you, Randy.
Nice.
Yeah, at our Elevate reception,
we did have one. Yep.
We did. Yeah, that was very nice. But they're it's somewhat a broad stroke or somewhat stereotype, but younger generation, they want to feel like they're giving back, and so we're coming up with ways to volunteer. With MICPA, whether it's we just did a volunteer day at Junior Achievement of Detroit. So, how can we engage younger people? But, at the same time, depending on where they are in their career, they may need us more later in their career. Mm-hmm. Meaning if they work for a smaller firm and they rely on their state association for a lot of knowledge, networking, learning. So yeah, that's one of the things that, I'm probably speaking on behalf of other state societies, that we have such a range of members from the largest firm to the smallest to business and industry. We're all trying to figure out how to engage and how to provide value to all of them. And each one kind of needs us differently. One of the biggest things is advocacy. So we've been trying to talk about that, advocating for the profession, changing the requirements for licensure, but also being there if there's an attack on licensure, which has been happening in certain states recently,
Mm-hmm.
Florida
Yep.
being one of them. My friend Shelley Weir is just what they went through earlier this year and could happen again, maybe not necessarily in Florida, but other states. Like, those are the things that are super important. And then we try to get that message out. Like, you may not realize what we're doing for the profession, but this is what we're doing. And this is why it benefits you in your career and your profession into the future. So that's one of the key messages that I think we're all working together on because I think advocacy used to kind of be our best kept secret, right?
Right.
Someone once told me, if your members aren't mad at you when it comes to advocacy, that means you're doing a good job. But also at the same time, that means they don't really know what we're doing. So
Exactly.
So we're all trying to figure that out, and certainly this additional pathway to licensure has helped somewhat with that.
Yeah, what Florida went through was crazy, and I think I heard recently that could come up again in Florida, which is we won't even get in. That's just too insane to me. Um, so you've talked about licensure a couple times, and I know you're going through the process right now. Is this something that, I guess the one thing that I keep hearing, whether is portability? Is there a way everybody's working together from all the state levels to make sure that this is not an issue?
Yep.
How does that happen?
Yeah, mobility was certainly one of the key, I call it sticking point in all these conversations that took some time. Now the new UA language that was passed, or I think in May, I believe, now goes to this individual practice privilege that was able to protect mobility. So no matter where we're at in states, licensing the 150 hours, licensing bachelor's degree +2, we're able to protect that mobility. So that was a very important piece that now states, hopefully will be able to adopt. And I know every state is on a different timeline, different,
Right.
but I think eventually we'll all the 54, 55 jurisdictions that license CPAs will be on the same, with the additional pathway and the mobility language.
Okay, so that shouldn't be an issue. We should be past that. I've heard that often in the past. All right, there's been a lot, and in your 5 years now, there's been a lot of things going on, as we mentioned at the beginning. I think I want to touch on a couple of other of those. One is PE into the profession. 5 years ago, there was no really PE when you started, and now private equity has become very prevalent. Is there anything that the association is doing specifically around that, or how are you managing the PE inflow? I guess not managing is maybe not the right word, but does it impact how you're working with firms?
I don't know if it necessarily impacts like the day to day. We have great relationships with firms, of course, all over Michigan, and some who have had investments with private equity, and some who have either not, I might say not yet,
Right.
or those who have also specifically stated they plan to remain independent. And so I think all those firms, they kind of all work together. They're all members of ours, and we want to continue to provide value, provide resources, and it'll just be kind of interesting to see. I mean, certainly some of those that have had the private equity investment, they're growing pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They've had the opportunity to add on more acquisitions. I actually had one firm here in Michigan, medium-sized firm who was acquired, and then within like 6 months acquired again. So they literally just changed the sign on the door, and then they had to change it again. So, a little bit of upheaval for sure.
Yep.
And how that impacts leadership, how that impacts culture, I think, is still a little bit wait to be seen. And then it will be interesting to see how these deals may start to flip. I think there's already been one. I don't think any offices in Michigan. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now, but we'll see how this cycle kind of continues and the impacts on the profession. And I think it's here. It's not like it's going to go away. And so how do we adjust? I know I've been on different webinars recently about the alternative practice structure.
Yep.
How those are set up and potential impacts on that we'll have to keep an eye on, how it might impact like peer review and things.
Independence
and keeping independence for sure.
Yep.
So that's obviously ensuring we protect the profession there. And yeah, I think it's a little bit of a wait and see, but it's definitely been interesting for sure.
Yeah, I keep saying, well, it's inevitable. It's past inevitable. It's here. It's part of it. It's a major part of the profession. I've had a few of these firms reach out to me just as an advisor to them, and I keep saying, well, if you're going to do it, I think I'll be most impactful if I can advise on the culture end of integrating things. And so I'll probably get involved from that standpoint. We'll see.
Yeah.
As you mentioned before we went live, there was a podcast that came out today, I think, where I had a VC-backed company that is investing in smaller firms, and I did sign on as an advisor to them. And it's a little bit different model, but you and I talked about this. If we can have an impact that makes sure that these go as smooth as possible and have the positive impact that they can, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think succession is obviously super important, and that's really, hopefully, leaders and owners and partners of CPA firms are considering that. I mean, I think unfortunately, sometimes one of the worst things that can happen is when we don't have a succession plan, and that, the private equity or the looking at M&A is certainly an option for that if that's what they're looking for. And I think that's somewhat of just the natural continuation of business. And, these business owners who have had, at this point, pretty long, successful careers, they deserve an opportunity to hopefully retire.
For sure.
And enjoy life. Sometimes a lot of CPAs, they struggle with that. But
they do.
I think maybe we can work together and help encourage those to retire and enjoy their career. And actually, I think this something else we were talking about is, as I see it, as a great opportunity for younger CPAs or those who have some experience, they're maybe a little bit entrepreneurial, to go out and start their own firm.
Yep.
There's great opportunity there to create these, kind of like the way they want to do it.
Yep.
If they want to, not necessarily just the transactional 1040 firm anymore. It's they're doing advisory. They might get into some financial planning, and they're these lifestyle firms that tend to be working out really well. And I see a great opportunity because you talk about firms getting acquired. Bigger firms are going to continue to get bigger. Maybe the medium-sized firms, or maybe fewer of them, but there's still going to be such a need for small firms, and I think even greater need.
Yep.
Because they're the ones who are going to be taking care of their small business owners in their doctor's offices in their hometown, and there's a CPA in every town.
Yep.
And so they're going to be necessary to support their communities. And I think because of the impact of private equity, that might even cause a greater opportunity for the small firms.
Yeah, I think it will. We do a survey for the profession on satisfaction levels, and what we find is that the satisfaction levels are actually higher in larger firms and smaller firms, and it's those mid-sized firms that where satisfaction levels are not as great because they're competing against the small and the large, I think, is one of it. But those small firms just have that, it seems like, more freedom, that, like you just said, that lifestyle. They can design the firm around their lifestyle. So it's a pretty cool, I think, opportunity as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so there's one other that at least I can think of off the top of my head, major thing that's happened in the last 5 years, and that's AIs. We're just the tip of the iceberg on that. It's the beginning, but it's what everybody wants to talk about, though, too. So does the association have tools or advice in place on how AI is integrating into the profession or should be looked at all?
We do. We offer, a lot of learning, a lot of, speakers. We just had a great AI speaker at our Small Firm Practitioners Conference. It was kind of somewhat of just demystifying that this is what it is. This is how you can utilize it. Yes. And so let me just straight out say that AI will continue, has and will continue to have an even greater impact on the profession today and into the future. But then also, I'm not a skeptic by any means, but AI has been around for 40 years. That's one thing people kind of think it's like brand new. And yes, there's a lot of fantastic companies and everything out there, but it's kind of funny because, I mentioned I came from the Robotics Association. In the robotics industry, they've been saying that robots are going to take jobs since the first robot went into a GM plant in 1957. And as I mentioned earlier, there's not enough people to take the advanced manufacturing jobs that there are today.
Yep.
Jobs change. Jobs have been changing since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution.
Yep.
And so, if I hear another headline that says AI is going to take all the accountants' jobs, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, AI is not going to take all the accountants' jobs. There's still going to be such a need for customer interaction, the client interaction, the ability to take data. Basically, and believe me, the AI can take the data and be able to drive results from it, but you still need to interpret the results. You still
Yes.
need to present that information. So I heard someone once say, I've heard it enough times now, I'm not sure exactly the first person who said it, but they said, AI is not going to take accountants' jobs, but accountants who embrace AI, are they going to take the jobs of the accountants who don't? So I think that's certainly true. I think
It is.
it's something that CPAs and firms and businesses need to understand what's out there and understand the technologies and how to adopt it and what they should adopt, but it's not going to take all the jobs.
No.
And there's going to create new ones.
It's definitely going to create new ones, and it's going to free us up to do the things that are the most important for clients. Like you just said, interpret it, advise it, have that communication. Maybe there's some new skills that we need to have. Maybe, communication skills are going to be more important than our technical skills or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to help the profession,
For sure.
I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So before we wrap up, the other thing that we talked about briefly before we went on, but you're very proud of the culture that has been created at MICPA. So around joy and trust and innovation. So expand on a little bit how the culture of going on there and why that's important to you.
Sure. Yeah. It's I like culture. I think it's something that you're always building. It's something you're always developing. And, so what are the three words of our culture here at MICPA that's centered on joy, trust, and innovation? And I always start with trust because trust is the base. Mm-hmm. Trust is the middle. In order to build culture, community, you need that trust. But we're in the trust business, right? So they say being a CPA is the most trusted profession. Our members trust that we're going to do whatever we can to serve them. We do it through advocacy. We do it through collaboration. We do it through education. But then also us as an MICPA team, we need to build that trust with each other. So we do that a variety of ways. A lot of it is, very open communications and that kind of thing. And trust is like a currency. You can quickly lose it. You can build it. And so it's something that we always like to focus on, particularly in the profession. The innovation piece, you hear innovation, you think, oh, it's like AI or it's startup companies or it's in laboratories. But I it's everyday innovation. We're always creative. We can always be innovative. Let's try new things. Let's try different things. And, I think we really saw that particularly during the pandemic, suddenly had to basically become a virtual organization overnight. We were certainly tons of ways that we all were creative and innovative in the firms. And the businesses, how they were all creative and innovative and driving that innovation. So yeah, that's why I encourage our team. And even if maybe it's not as successful as you want, but that you learn from it. I don't like calling anything a failure, and you learn from it.
I agree.
And then finally, the first is joy. It's my favorite word. Joy it's kind of it's more of like a spirit. It's kind of like your inner peace, being content. And so I talk about joy inside the workplace. So we like to share our joys. We do team builders and things like that. We just went to a Tigers game a few weeks ago. We do culture days and things, but then also joy outside the workplace, ensuring that we have that work-life, I don't like calling it balance, like our work-life integration, that we can, have that joy both outside of work too. So those are kind of the three things that I talk about a lot. So,
and that's ties into, I saw a friend of mine, John Garrett, was out at one of your conferences recently, and the what's your that joy coming outside of work and how important that is.
Yeah, I learned that from John. Actually, I do one-on-one meetings every quarter or so with the staff. And so our topic this time is what's your and?
Yeah.
And actually it's doing great because I realize even before we sit down, I think I know what their and is, but sometimes that surprise me too.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But yeah, John's the best. And
he is.
Learned a lot from him. He's got a great podcast also.
He does. Have you been on it?
Not yet. I'm waiting.
We I'll text him right now and say he's got to do it. So
I can't tell you what my ands are because I need to save him for his podcast.
Well, I'm going to ask you in a second. So you'll have to at least give me one. So yeah, John's been out at our company outings in the past and spoke to our group, and he's been on this podcast a couple times too, and I've been on his, and yeah, he's just become a really good friend over the years. So I love his whole message. So with that being said, that is the final question, and I don't call it your and. I was asking this question before I met John, but I'll give him credit. So I always like to end with, before we get your contact information, I like to end with, what are your passions outside of work? What do you love doing? What lights you up? Obviously, working with the CPAs seems to. I can see your passion coming through, but there's more important things outside of work that I'm sure you're passionate about.
So I love to coach. So I coach my son's, now 12U baseball team. When I'm on the baseball field with my team and my son's team, it's like I don't think about anything else.
Yeah.
And it's great in practice and then even during games. And I'm the coach I'm not the head coach, but I'm like the coach who kind of sets the lineup and is more the strategic coach. I love doing that. I love thinking about next steps and everything. And we're now in, of course, we had a fun season, a little bit of a break in the summer, and doing a little fall ball. But next year we're doing the big Cooperstown, New York tournament, which
cool.
We're already excited about. So I not only coach my son's team, actually both my boys have now really gotten into golf. So I love golfing with them. I'm definitely not a golf coach by any means. I'm not very good at golf, but I just love being out on the golf course as well. But also, coaching the MICPA team here too. But then probably my unique passion, which is only a winter passion. Actually, I told John Garrett this is I put my kids also play hockey, and I put in a backyard ice rink.
Oh, cool.
And it basically fills my backyard, build it with boards, put a liner down, watch the weather. I become an amateur weather person all winter, fill it with water, and then make ice. And so it's basically you're at the whims of Mother Nature, right?
Yep.
And I just love not only preparing it, but then also when we have great weather, which last winter was was fantastic. We had over 40 skating days. And then I have a home bony where I resurface the ice, and it's super satisfying. I call it my ice therapy.
Yeah.
And I just love going out on the ice, skating with my kids, bringing, the neighbors, family over, and we skate and build a fire, may have a beer or perhaps a bourbon while I'm out there. And it's a lot of fun. We have lights out, so we play at night. And so that's definitely my winter joy that I look forward to every winter. When people complain about the winter in Michigan, and I'm like, I want it to be cold because that means I'm going to have good ice. So
nice.
That's definitely my winter passion.
That's cool. We have a cabin in northern Wisconsin, and we go up there after Christmas every year for the week between Christmas and New Year's, and we just clear the ice on the lake, and we'll skate up there. Yep. But I think I'm not skating anymore. I'm getting too old because the last time I did it, I fell and broke my wrist. So,
oh no,
yeah,
oh geez.
So we might be doing boot hockey instead of skating up there. Maybe that's safer for me. Okay, and then last question: if people want to hear more about what MICPA is doing or be in contact with you, what's some good places for them to look?
Sure, go to micpa.org, which is our website. They reach out to me. My email bdoyle@micpa.org. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so please reach out to me on LinkedIn. And love to keep the conversation going.
Nice. Well, it was a pleasure. Fun conversation. I appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely. It was fun. Great to see you, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and learn more about TriMerit at theuniquecpa.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA. ProfessionalProductions.net